All right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 9 of the Tuohey Talk Show. Um, exciting day. Today we're going to be talking about, as you can see by the title of this, the Twitter takeover by Elon Musk. We will also be doing, since we're live, we're going to be doing a Q&A at the end of the episode. Just for, those of you that have some questions, whether it's just general trading questions or if it's in reference to this topic. Now, of course, I'm giving kind of my take on this takeover by Elon Musk. It's something very interesting, something we've seen in the past before. In fact, it's a very average acquisition deal. There's nothing too crazy about it other than the valuation. We have in the past seen billionaires purchase media companies. It's just that right now we're now seeing it on a very, very large scale. And in fact, hold on, while I'm doing that, I'm going to minimize this so you guys aren't just watching a big loop the entire time. I'm also buying a stock right now, so you can see my setup back here. But no, yeah, so this isn't necessarily a crazy deal other than that valuation. I mean, of course, we had Jeff Bezos buy the Washington Post. Now, to be fair, that was, I guess, an actual news company. Twitter itself is not a news company. We know it's a social media company. But it is definitely a very just fascinating deal because we haven't seen something this large. And now we're getting a lot of controversy over whether or not this is, I'm going to say okay, but whether or not it's going to change fundamentally Twitter as we know it, change the way that information is delivered to us. I mean, I know a lot of us as traders, we use Twitter a lot, but at the end of the day, I want to say Twitter was ranked, I think, the 19th or 16th, perhaps, most popular social media platform out of all of them in the world. It's not the number one social media platform. It isn't. You got Facebook, you've got Instagram, YouTube. Like, these are bigger in terms of the user base. So why is this such a big deal? And the main reason is because this is where the most influence comes out of. It's where we have a lot of powerful figures, a lot of powerful, people in politics, people with businesses sharing their thoughts, whether it's in the form of a thread, whether it's through an advertisement, whether it's whatever the case might be. And then a lot of times we're linking to other social medias because Twitter does have a maximum character count per post, per actual post. Of course, you can make a larger thread, but you get what I'm saying. And is this going to change? Because Elon's big promise is the delivery of free speech through Twitter. He feels that Twitter has not been very open in terms of accepting free speech, and this is where, of course, we get a lot of different sides to the equation. Is Twitter actually upholding free speech? Does it need to, right? And because at the end of the day, Twitter is not a private business, but it's a business, and these First Amendment rights as we have in the First Amendment rights, these amendments and the rights we have as Americans don't apply to businesses. And Twitter is a worldwide company. People across the entire globe use Twitter. It's not just Americans, and they don't have the same laws, the same constitution as we do here in America. So it's very, very fascinating, and we'll get into kind of my take on all this, and I'd love to hear your guys' take in the live chat. If you're watching, I'm going to let you know now. Make sure to give me a thumbs up. Let me know in chat. I'm reading chat right here, so anything that's coming in, I'm seeing. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this because I get both sides. I am not overly biased on one particular side of this. Now, I think it's Elon's right, of course, as a successful businessman, as someone who has come through and purchased businesses in the past, to do the same here. He's come through and he's purchased Tesla. I believe now don't quote me on this. I didn't do enough research on this particular topic, but I'm pretty sure he was not the inventor of PayPal. He was one of the co-founders, or maybe he wasn't even a founder. Maybe he was an investor in that as well. He hasn't really built a lot of businesses from scratch. He's bought them because of money that he has built up as an entrepreneur. So it is definitely an interesting, he's doing the same thing here, just on a much larger scale. And I'm almost a little worried. I feel like he's biting off almost a little more than he can chew. I mean, this is a $44 billion deal. Now, I believe he has raised some money outside of just his own personal funding, but he's also taken out loans from the bank. He's taken out lines of credit against his Tesla stock, and I believe that made up over half of the funded money. And then he also, I believe it was between 12 or 16 billion dollars in cash that he has also promised to promise to put forward for this deal. Good old energy drinks. No alcohol in here. No cocktail Fridays, but we do have some water to stay hydrated and a little bit of caffeine to keep the energy up all the while. Although I did sleep pretty well last night, so I guess I don't really need the caffeine. Anyways, though, let's get back on topic here. Let's kind of really backtrack all the way to the beginning of, I guess, the main areas of concern from my perspective. And then we can go a little bit broader. Like I had mentioned, I think it's definitely on the riskier side, right? Where you have someone who's taking out all these loans for a company that really hasn't shown massive signs of profit. Someone asked what I'm drinking. I am drinking a Celsius right now. That's kind of one of my favorite energy drinks. I prefer that over Red Bull. Now I'm just getting off topic. But when you're taking out these big loans, essentially at the high of our stimulus bubble in the economy, what happens when we go into a recession, right? I mean, Elon's net worth has grown. I think he was worth like 2018 or 2019, like 10 or 20 billion. And now he's the richest man in the world, right? It's increased tenfold because of this pandemic. And that's fantastic for him. But at what point is he over leveraging himself? And I do like Elon. I'm a fan of Elon. I think he's very different than most businessmen. Now, again, I'm not here to say that, oh yeah, billionaires are great. You know, I do think everyone has the right to make as much money as they so please. But in my opinion, I guess this is where some people may differ, but I personally don't believe that you can ethically become a billionaire. I think you have to exploit people in order to amass that much wealth. I've heard stories of people, you know, who work at Tesla, stories of people who work at Amazon, and they're not really a fan of these workplaces because, again, you have to be exploited as a worker. You are going to be overworked. You are going to be put through scenarios you don't want to. You are going to feel very pressured. Now, again, hard work, yes. There's a difference between working hard and being overworked. Especially, I guess, by our American standards. I mean, we go over and look at a lot of other countries, right, where overworked here is like they would dream to have that kind of work scenario. But in order to become a billionaire, again, I personally do believe you have to do so in an unethical manner. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on that, though, in the chat, too. And so, you know, is he the best option? No one is really the best option. You know, it's tough. If anyone's going to buy Twitter, you're going to have to be a billionaire. You're going to have to be someone who has a lot of money and probably has exploited people in the past and might continue to do so in the future. That being said, I see a lot of comments on Twitter itself, you know, in reference to this topic that everyone's like, well, billionaires shouldn't be in control of this. Well, listen, here's the deal. The ultra wealthy shouldn't be in control of Twitter. They already are, right? I mean, these board, I'm sure you guys have all seen the BlackRock and Vanguard companies that essentially own the majority of private companies. They're on the board of a lot of these companies. They own massive shares and they do have voting rights, right? Because of how many shares they own, they have voting rights. So we already have two basically multi-billion / trillion-dollar companies running a lot of our private businesses or public businesses, but they have a large influence on the direction of that. So we already have this massive ownership companies or people that are in charge of a lot of our businesses that we use every single day, like Twitter, like Facebook. I mean, is this really different than Mark Zuckerberg owning Facebook? It really, to me, seems the same. Now, of course, Zuckerberg built it from the ground up, and that's a great movie, by the way, for those of you guys who haven't watched it. Is it The Social Network or The Social Network? Yeah, The Social Network. I always get it confused with The Social Dilemma. That's a documentary style. The Social Network, though, good movie, though. It kind of shows, you know, from a few different points of view of what happened during that building of Facebook. Because I don't know how much you guys know about this, but essentially, again, from the movie's depiction of it, Zuckerberg essentially steals the idea from, is it the Winklevoss twins? Winklevoss, I think it was them. And he essentially, stole that idea because they were creating something called Harvard Connect, which was essentially the Facebook for Harvard. And he wanted to do this on a larger scale, and he took their idea completely and just did it on his own. Of course, he's a very smart kid at the time, and they went on, I believe, to be the first Bitcoin billionaires. Those twins. Man, there's a lot. We're just kind of going into some side topics here. The Winklevoss twins. I see we got it pulled up over on the side for me. Again, I don't quote me on them becoming the first Bitcoin billionaires, but I do believe that is also true. So they ended up doing all right, but it was just, again, exploitation, not necessarily the most ethical means of business to get to these levels. You can't tell me that. Again, love to let you know, but they're different. They have to do that in order to amass that much wealth. And now we're just getting into an ethicality debate, and I won't get too far into that, although I guess talking about this Twitter takeover is in a sense a debate of ethicality. And so kind of getting back on track, one of the biggest, other than billionaires shouldn't be in control of these companies, in my opinion they already are. The ultra wealthy are in control of these companies. Now we're talking about that free speech. And this is where it gets just so wild to me, so fascinating, because like I just mentioned, this is a worldwide platform. People in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, and South America, they all use Twitter too. And they don't have those same constitutional rights that we do. So by implementing our rights as Americans into a company that is used worldwide, there's actually going to be implications. The EU recently passed some internet. It kills me. I don't even know the name of it. It's some bill that went into effect or is going into effect next year or sometime this year, where every social media company that is used on there within Europe needs to follow a set of guidelines that doesn't spread misinformation, that doesn't promote hate speech. And so it's essentially trying to crack down on misinformation, disinformation, hate speech. And Elon apparently, based on, I don't believe he's come out and said this, but based on his tweets, the way he talks about what free speech is, it's the ability to say whatever you want within the guidelines of our American laws. I cannot go into a movie theater and yell fire. I know that's like literally the most basic, that example goes back so many years, but I can't just go do that, right? That's not legal. That is, what kind of speech is that? It's that actually, I guess, would be spreading misinformation. Just that was like the in-person version of it. I cannot go defame someone on Twitter. I can't go do this, but he wants it to be as free as possible. And there are parts of that do make sense, because again, I'm trying to get the entire picture put into my head, right? I want to get every single detail, because I want to be unbiased. It's impossibly unbiased, but I want to be able to see both sides of the picture here, because I do understand why a lot of people do feel silenced on Twitter. And that applies to both sides. Twitter is very interesting, and I watched a little mini documentary on this, which blew my mind. I'll try to, it's a different YouTube video, and I think it's called the dead internet theory. And again, it's a theory, but a lot of this is proven fact. We know there are bots on social media. We know that algorithms do push forward certain content, and it's not because the owners and the employees of this company want to push it. It's because the algorithm does. It is the most effective way to do business, is to have an algorithm essentially track everything you do so they know what to sell you. And that's the same reason we have bots, is to persuade public opinion. It's to persuade towards a product. It's to persuade towards whatever. It's for persuasion. And I guess we're almost going on a little tangent about this, but it's very interesting, and I think it applies. Human beliefs, human perception can very easily be changed. We are very, as a group, as a society, as a people, we are very easily persuaded. And even though we all like to think we're not, we all like to think, if I'm stubborn, if I don't believe in this, I'm not going to. Well, if you are, this was the example that the documentary used. You're sitting in a movie theater watching a movie. Everyone is here with it, right? Everyone is in the stands. And you're thinking to yourself, this movie kind of sucked. It really wasn't that good, but everyone else is hyping it up. Everyone you talk to, oh my God, that was the single greatest movie I have ever seen. That was insane. And to you, it was just average. Are you going to be the one person that says, no, that movie sucked, when everyone else, no, because then you're just thinking to yourself, I'm wrong. And subliminally you're going to be thinking yourself, you're going to essentially take on the opinion, well, that movie was probably better than I thought it was in the moment, right? It was probably a little bit better just because everyone else is saying it was. And it simply is the way it is. That is what we as people do. Bots, though, cannot be persuaded. If they have programmed an opinion or they have programmed a series of sayings, their opinions cannot be changed. And so by using those bots, we are very easily able to be persuaded. And yes, Destiny, thank you for the reminder. We have people watching right now and only 13 likes. If you're watching this, everyone should like it. Unless you dislike what I'm talking about, but I think I'm providing all this in a pretty unbiased opinion, unbiased manner. I'm just trying to give information the way that from what I've seen so far, and kind of I guess my take on it too. But again, very, very down the middle here. Again, so that's what these bots are used for. That's why these algorithms are so useful, is because it essentially takes our vulnerabilities and exploits them. And so I get the wanting to remove some of that to make it a very much so free speech platform. However, now going back to the business deal side of it, there's a reason that these algorithms are used. There's a reason that these bots are in place, and it's normally to sell. And Twitter as a company has not been very effective at turning profit. And now that was the goal for their shareholders. If Elon buys this and it's his money, maybe he doesn't care. I'd be shocked to believe that he doesn't care about money for $44 billion, but it's his choice. And so I get him wanting to say, okay, yeah, you can say whatever you want. We're going to get rid of bots. We're going to make it much harder to just get onto Twitter if you're not an actual human. I do. In the same breath, though, then we get into, okay, well, what about disinformation? What about misinformation? Why can I go say that? I'm trying to think of something that's legal, because I was going to use stock pumping as an example, but that's actually illegal to do. No one can go just legally pump a stock. No one can legally go spread misinformation about a PR that came out. In fact, that just happened. I wonder if that's still up on here. Hold on, I'm going to share my screen real quick if I can find it. There was because I haven't seen this in a while. Doesn't look like it's on there anymore. It was on the top percent gainer list today, though. And it was up so much because a PR company actually put out a false PR. And so it was up like 30 or 40%, and it was halted for about 2 or 3 hours before it opened up down on the day, because that news that it was up on was false, right? That's illegal. The SEC will come in and take legal action on that. But anyways, should I be able to go say, man, I'm not going to say any of these examples because they're bad. I'm not going to say that in public. But should you have the right to? And at first glance, I say, yeah, I was always amongst the belief that you should be able to say what you want as long as it follows our law. But in the same breath, does that almost regress our progression? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make sense at all. Does it remove progression that we've made towards a more civil society? And it does, in fact, I do believe it does silence some groups to just go around spreading a lot of misinformation, or essentially allowing people to say things they shouldn't say. I do think there are groups that will be affected by it, whether that's race, religion, ethnicity. And it's a really, really tough moral standpoint from an ethical standpoint. It's tough to say, yeah, I can go, like, you should be able to go say whatever you want without any repercussions. But by law, if I'm allowed to go say that legally, I feel like I should also be able to go say that on Twitter. Not that I will. But again, now we're moving into this very complex issue that America isn't everything. We are not the entire world. As much as we want to believe we are, we're not. I'm reading through some questions. Elon doesn't need bots. He's the king of persuasion. That's not completely false. He is the king of persuasion, I'd say. And I'd love to hear down in the chat here, for those of you guys watching live, your thoughts on Elon. Because this is kind of a funny backstory, I guess, we're going on, and I guess a little bit less about Twitter itself here. But back in college, when I was kind of first starting to learn to trade, I had a roommate. In fact, I think I'm hanging out with him tonight. He actually ended up moving to Texas, funny enough. And he was just so bullish on Elon, right? This was back, 2017, 2018. He was just, Elon is the next big thing. And I didn't buy it. I didn't see it the way he saw it. I was like, Elon, to me, this Tesla seems like a Ponzi scheme, right? They weren't making any money, right? And it's oddly enough, that's kind of what we've gotten to now, where we're seeing still Tesla is right now, doing all right. They've beat earnings. They've beat Actually, they beat earnings for the last, since 2019, since fall of 2019, they have not lost earnings on earnings. But a lot of that was because of government funded, I say stimulus, but also the government incentivized the purchasing of electric vehicles, of clean energy, which that's a whole other topic in itself that I won't get too far into. But he was just so bullish on it. And I was like, dude, I think you're being unrealistic. And he had Tesla from wherever it was in like 2018, like early 2018. I was like, oh, I don't know, man. Tesla's already up a lot. And yeah, I think I persuaded him probably to sell. I probably was like, I was so bearish on Elon. I thought he was a joke, and turns out now he's the richest man in the world. And now I looked like a moron, and he still lets me know it sometimes. He won't live that one down. But again, the reason Tesla was able to grow so much was because of incentive. Man, I'm not an English major here. Because of government incentives. That was a reason that Elon was able to amass so much wealth from Tesla. And now with a $44 billion deal, I think again, 12 to 16 billion of which is backed from Tesla's stock, a line of credit against his stock. It scares me a little bit. It does, because again, you're taking a business that grew because of the government. Now Twitter, I don't know how he's going to be able to use the government on this one. I don't. I'm a little bearish on it. But again, it doesn't matter, because if this deal goes through, it won't be private, and that's another area I wanted to touch on. Now that I've kind of gotten my viewpoint on it, and again, very in the middle. I'm very undecided on whether or not I personally think it's good or bad for society. Again, from the business deal standpoint, I'm a little bit more bearish on it. Tesla had a 48,000 vehicle recall today, according to Shane in the comments. I didn't see that news. That'd be pretty crazy. That's where I'm at there. Now, let's talk a bit more about that taking out a loan against Tesla stock. When you have that much money like Elon does, and I'm assuming a lot of you guys know this, but it's not in cash, right? He doesn't just have whatever he's worth, $240 billion sitting in cash. It's in stock. I think he actually, there was a SEC filing that came out yesterday or the day before. He sold $4 billion worth of Tesla stock in the 900s. Again, just a couple days ago. And I think now he still owns 192 million shares of Tesla. Like, he still owns like $170 billion worth of Tesla stock. He can't sell that on the market. Let's go over real quick. Let's take a look at the Tesla chart real quick. Let's see. We're going to go here. Desktop. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. You guys should be seeing my desktop now. And let's go to Tesla. And let's just look at the average volume traded, right? And I guess we can actually keep looking at the screen, because this will be important for Twitter, the next part I'm going to get into. Look at the daily volume on Tesla, right? There's only been one day where it's traded more than 200 million shares. There's only been a handful of days where it's traded over 50 million shares. He cannot just dump that. He would send the stock down to like $300 if he dumped his shares. He would no longer be worth as much as he is right now. And so that's something we have to always be remembering too, is like, okay, again, that isn't in cash. And now going back to where he's taking out that loan, right? That loan was when the stock was valued at like $1,000 when he took it out. It was up in here. Now that is already worth 20% less. So if Tesla just crashes, he will no longer have the financing available from where he took that loan out. It's going to be worth significantly less. Now that we're on charts though, I am going to go back to Twitter here, or go to Twitter. And you're going to see it's trading under the value of this buyout was at $54.20 a share. And you're going to be asking, okay, well, why is Tesla not trading it? Oh, that chart does look nice. A little consolidation there. But why is Tesla not trading at $54 a share? Well, because that deal hasn't officially gone through yet. In order for the funding has been secured, it's been agreed on, but there's still negotiations being made. And so during that time, it's important to realize that this deal could still fall through. And that's a risk to investors. If that deal falls through, Twitter probably plummets. And there is a stipulation in there that whatever, if the deal doesn't go through, whatever party, essentially whatever the reason is. So if the board of Twitter says, okay, yeah, this deal isn't going through, they have to now pay Elon $1 billion. If Elon backs out of the deal, he has to pay the Twitter board $1 billion. But if that deal falls through, Twitter probably plummets, right? We're up because of Elon. This gap was because of Elon. The reason this is holding is because of the Elon deal. And we need to just keep that in the back of our minds that, you know, it is still a risky buy. There's a lot that could go wrong. I would believe that he's not just sitting here trolling, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to do all this, and then he doesn't end up doing it. I don't know. Elon is a master troll. We're going to go back to the webcam over here. Elon is a master troll. There's no doubt about that. Move this. But, you know, it could still fall through. And so that's why right now Twitter is not trading at $54.20 a share. They estimate that this deal should go through by the end of the year, the next 6 months or so. That's still a long time, right? Twitter is still going to be a publicly traded stock for a long time, even if the deal does go through. And if it does, then sure, buying it here in the 49s is going to get you $3 a share gain, whatever that percentage comes out to as an investor. But the downside risk seems like a lot more than $3 a share, right? If the deal doesn't go through. I'm going to start reading through some questions real quick, or some comments. Okay, this is going back to when I asked what you guys thought about Elon. I enjoy Elon's perspective on life and humans. I love some of his vision, but don't like his instability. I think those are very fair points, right? Like, he does seem to have a very humanitarian view on society as a whole, right? He wants the human race to progress. That's why he's trying to get to Mars. I saw Matt Monaco loves conspiracy theories, by the way, and just like fun ones, not like, oh, hold on. Get rid of this. Whoops. Not like these crazy conspiracy theories, but he's always like, just again, doing these fun ones. And he's like, yeah, Elon Musk is an alien who was sent back down to Earth, and he's making all this money to save the human race by sending us to Mars. I was like, all right. We'll see about that. But he's a very unstable person. That's why there is so much speculation on this deal still. And so I guess that's kind of my thought on this whole takeover. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know how this will change Twitter and the world, right? Because again, Twitter is a very influential platform. In fact, let me look through. I was just reading through some of this. Give me a moment here. Okay, so Twitter is ranked as the 16th most popular social networking worldwide. To put that in perspective, Twitter has 8.85% of the world's overall social media user base. That's not incredibly high by any means, right? Like under 10%. We're still in the single digits of the overall social media base, is what Twitter has, more or less. I think it has about 400 million users. It's a good amount, but it's not an insane amount. But there is just so much power in Twitter. Even a lot of, I'm sure you guys have seen it. You know, I don't like to read the news a lot, and this I guess goes back to the algorithm side. This is the personal experience side of things. I don't like to read the news a lot. I think news is very biased, and so I do sometimes like to go through Twitter, and I'll go onto that explore page or whatever and see some headlines. But it's very obvious that those headlines are targeted at me. And going back to that short documentary, The Dead Internet Theory, I believe it was called. Twitter essentially, apparently, just based on the information that I got from that video, again, this could be completely wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me. Twitter essentially places you in circles, right? And they show you enough engaging content that you like to keep you on, but their main goal is to actually show you the opposite side, to trigger you, to get you mad, to get you engaged. Anger engages people, and that's why in the media, we always see sad stories or upsetting stories or scary stories, because it engages you as a viewer. A happy story, unfortunately, while we love to say, oh my gosh, this is great, we need more of this, it isn't as engaging. We look at it, we smile, and we scroll on. You see something you don't like, and you start arguing with people, and all of a sudden you're in an argument with 15 different people, which of course might be bots. And so apparently that's the way Twitter puts you in these little circles, these little groups. For me, there's one guy I follow on Twitter, and I don't follow a ton of people on Twitter, but there's one person in particular who will like funny pictures, right? Momo Khan, if you're watching this, I'm giving you a little shout out because the things you like are funny. And we actually someone put out a tweet about MomoCon because they all see the stuff he likes, and it's really funny. But all the time, you'll get a recommendation based on what that person has liked or what a person has liked. And the more you like their pictures, the more it says, okay, this is engaging, this is engaging, this is engaging. It'll keep showing you that. And so one of Elon's goals is apparently to make this algorithm very open sourced, so that you can see what, and I guess that's good. He's not, I guess, getting rid of the algorithm. He's just trying to show what the algorithm is doing, how it's watching you, how it's tracking you, which I do think would be fantastic. I think that is probably the most agreeable thing. I hope we can all agree on this. That having an open source algorithm so that we can see how we're being tracked, how we're being guided, how we're being persuaded would be really good. I hope we can all agree on that anyways. But I'd like to hear your guys' if you guys have any comments or questions on this what I've gone over so far, let me know down in the chat. I do see a couple of general stock questions, just general questions. I'll get to those in a few minutes here. As we're going to go into like 10 minutes of Q&A. But that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I shouldn't even say my thoughts, but like just what is happening and trying to show both sides of that picture. I think it would be very interesting nonetheless, though. But I do think there's danger in having one person own such a powerful platform. But again, we're already kind of there, aren't we? Excuse me. I'll let some questions come in. I'll let the questions come in. I'm going to take a little sip here. But if you guys have any questions or comments on this, I'd love to hear your guys' perspective as well. You should be able to watch a chat replay if you're watching this after it's live, so you can kind of see what other people are saying here. In the meantime, be sure to drop a like. If you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe and turn on those post notifications, because whenever I go live, it'll notify you right away that we're live and we're doing a live event here. So let's hear some. If you guys have any perspective on this, like I said, I'd love to hear it. In the meantime, here we go. Oh, nothing. Okay. And speaking of news though, that's a great point Garrett brings up. If you guys are StocksTrade members and are not part of the StocksTrade breaking news, especially if you're a trader, fantastic. I have it up all day just because I do get to see, like, a lot of them are like small cap related stuff, but there are news articles that come out over bigger companies, which is kind of cool. It's a good way to just get quick news, and it's great for trading, right? I mean, when a company releases a PR, they are on top of it. So little shout out there, because they're a great group. And if we don't have any comments or anything on Elon taking over Twitter, or apparently, this potential buyout, we'll get into some general Q&A for just stock related stuff. I'm going to switch over to my screens here while we do some Q&A. So follow me to my screen. Here we have Twitter still. Hold on one second. You guys can see me here. I'm going to get the chat up so I can see your guys' questions. Yeah, and that's a good point too, because obviously we have, actually, in fact, I already have it up. DWAC is Trump's social media platform, which we see here. And after, hold on, let's get rid of all that. Let's go full screen here. After this news came out about Twitter, I mean, it's down. It was down like 50% from its highs. DWAC, this is Trump's social media company, Truth Social. This is the SPAC that's taking it public, which is a very fair point we need to bring up, for sure. So now it's rallying, of course. Trump put out his first tweet, so that was the reason for. We actually had a pretty mean gap this morning. I'll pull that up. After hours yesterday, Trump put out his first tweet on Truth Social, I believe that was the case, and it ran from after hours from 47 up to 62. Just about. That was a pretty crazy move. But Trump did say that he is staying 100% on Truth Social, and he will not be coming back to Twitter even if Elon unbanned him, unsuspended his account. Which actually I'm gonna turn back for just a second here, because that is another Another interesting point that I see, and I get it. So Trump was banned from Twitter because of the Capitol riot and inciting violence on January 6th. What I find very interesting, I completely understand that if that goes against Twitter's terms of service, absolutely should be banned. What I find very interesting, though, and again, this maybe it's a little biased, but the Kremlin, the Russian government, is still on Twitter. And they're launching a full-blown war on Ukraine. So to me, that's where I see a little bit of potential bias, right? I mean, the Kremlin still has an active, verified Twitter account. That would be interesting to hear guys' thoughts on for sure. But that to me is like, okay, wait a minute. Is there a bias? Maybe, perhaps, but that's the biggest example I can think of. A country that has launched a full-on invasion, a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, bombing civilians and destroying billions of dollars worth of property, just killing countless people. I mean, I think that the death counts in the tens of thousands. Apparently, the last stat I had seen. It is interesting, right, to me that. Okay, if they're allowed on here, I believe there were members of... Now, this was according to what I had seen on Twitter. I didn't go through and verify this. This was just headlines that caught my attention. But there are members of terrorist groups still active on Twitter. And so it's, is there fair treatment in that way? That is where I get a little curious. But anyways, back to the screens now. I do see some questions coming in. So let's get back here. Someone did just ask a question about DWOC. Why are we looking at DWOC? What does it represent? DWOC mainly, again, just looking at it for a trade purpose for me personally. If I was going to look at it, I actually, in small cap rockets, we actually had a nice little call out here I didn't take the long. I just, because I was just getting ready to film. But right in this area, the 52s, the low 52s, we ended up getting a push to the 53s. But DWOC has traditionally been a choppier chart. And again, I get why it's down with all this Twitter news, right? If Elon takes over Twitter, could that be the death of Truth Social? Not that it's even really up and running, but potentially, right? So unless you guys have any other comments or concerns, let's see. Maybe Putin has something on Twitter. We already explained that DWOC there. Why would Trump take so long to post on his own platform? That's sketchy. Yeah, very, very sketchy. No doubt about that, right? They were apparently having a lot of issues, right? So this is when it was announced that DWOC would be the SPAC taking the Truth Social public. And then obviously we've just had this consolidation and fall off because it was in this area that it was supposed to go live. And it just kept getting pushed back to March. It was supposed to go live in mid-February. And then it got pushed back. And then at some point it just fell off because I had tried to make an account just because I wanted to see. And I was placed on a wait list of 300,000 people that still hadn't been able to access an account. And I have to assume that list has only grown. And so now the first post by Trump has finally just been put up in May when this was supposed to be live in February. Definitely some sketch there, tough. I don't know. I don't even know what to think of that. I don't know what to make of that. To me, that doesn't seem like it's a very well-run group of developers behind it for how much money has been put into the social media. Let's see. What is your opinion on CYN and NutX? So we're getting into just general stock questions now. And that's fine. So NutX, unfortunately, I butchered that. I was long from here this morning. 838 was my average. I sold half here at 9, the other half at 870. 870s. And then I relonged it right here and just got chopped up on it. And unfortunately, it was a tough one because that trade didn't end up working until right here, which was a great spot. Don't get me wrong, but I was really trying to push sells in the high 9s, and it just never could get there. I was waiting for this breakout, and it didn't. Nothing would come out of it. CYN, another interesting one. Again, guys, we're now in the general Q&A section of this, and we're gonna wrap up afterwards. CYN. Now going, I guess this is just a big transition here, but. Very, very tough one, right? It's 7 straight green days in a row. That's a tough one for me to trade. I can't really do anything with that. There's no trade on that for me. They already did an offering. It just seems very manipulated. SPY, that's a good one. And I guess kind of just the overall state of the economy. And as we were going, oh man, that's brutal. We were talking about earlier, right? I think we were like basically at the peak of our economy when this Twitter deal went through. Now for the first quarter, the economy contracted. It was supposed to grow like 1 to 1.5%, and it contracted 1%. And so I think SPY under 410 is going to lead to a pretty significant pullback. Not a crash. I don't know as if we go into full crash mode like we did during COVID, but seeing the mid 300s would not surprise me over the next few months, the next year. And once we find that bottom in the market, I think that is when that's when we start seeing some more opportunity, very much like with COVID. But again, I think that bottom might take longer to find. But if we go into an actual recession again, just be prepared to sit on your hands. Don't feel the need to overtrade. That's the last thing you're gonna want to do. So that SPY under this 410 level could definitely lead to a much larger pull. GOFF, what do you think about an OTC doing a name change, forward split 1 to 3, ticker symbol change, and a reverse merge? I honestly have no idea. OTCs are just like, GOFF. OTCs are pretty dead. Although that chart does actually look really nice. Nice looking chart, I won't lie, but OTC has just been very slow lately. So nothing, no real opinion there for me. Do you think short squeeze patterns like WORGs or dip and rips are working better than afternoon breakouts in this market? Yes and no. I've seen a lot of great afternoon breakouts still. NutX, for example. Really, although, obviously it pulled really, really crazy there. But really nice afternoon move nonetheless. Still a good watch for me. But, I think there's still a lot of potential with afternoon breakouts. I think they're a bit easier to spot, easier to predict. Because again, now we have a full day's worth of data. A full day's worth of data with a multi-day chart to assess. We've had consolidation for the last 2 days on this. Now we get that perk up. And more or less, this is not quite, but it's an ABCD pattern in a sense, where we get the spike and then the consolidation to the afternoon, and we get that follow through. And for me, that's what I like to see. And speaking of which, guys, if you want to be part of the ABCD Masterclass, guys, by Tim Bohen, that will be down in the link description below. This is the pattern that I trade every single day. We're only accepting about 5,000 traders. Accepting 5,000 traders for the masterclass. 5,000, yeah. So if you guys want to get a spot, this will go quick. So the link is going to be down in the description below. But again, this is the pattern that has allowed me to essentially have the most consistent month, despite a very tough market. Because it's just something that I think is a very important pattern, very important for me. So if you guys want to get a spot, click the link. It'll be in the description below after this video. Can we get that posted on the chat? Yep, we're getting that posted on the chat right now for those of you guys watching it. But yeah, that afternoon breakout pattern for me is still my bread and butter in this choppier market. Even if it means being a little bit more on the scalpy side. Let's see. Any other questions here, guys? Stefano asked, do you ever feel scared by the uncertainty? And I don't know if that was in reference to Elon or just in general, but I think uncertainty is scary in every sense, right? I think no one likes the unknown. There's a lot to be learned from the unknown once we know it, but the unknown certainly is scary, and we'll never know it. And so whether that comes from stocks or whether that's just in life or, this Twitter deal, yeah, there's absolutely things to be scared about, but it's really about just reacting to what happens just as it is in stocks, and going from there. All right, guys, I think that is going to be all I have for today. So let me know, again, today's topic was really more about just kind of giving, a a little bit of my take on this Twitter takeover, but also just trying to show you guys different sides. You know, if you are very for it or very against it, let's try to be very open-minded about it, because unfortunately there's nothing, fortunately or unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to stop it. But go in with an open mind, see the perspective of both sides, and that's about all I can do, right? Is, you know, we can't stop it, so just learn from it and see what happens. You know, you're more than welcome to leave Twitter. We're all more than welcome to leave Twitter if we don't like it, if we don't like the changes being made. And ideally, his goal is probably to grow the Twitter base. So by people leaving, that would suggest that those changes being made are not better. They're not beneficial. So that's my take on it, guys. Like I said, if you have not liked the video, drop it a thumbs up right now. Make sure to turn on your post notifications for episode 10. Well, make sure you see it. It'll be live next Friday. And unfortunately, this one won't be live. I have to come in and film it. I'm busy Friday, so I'm gonna come in and film it Thursday. But I'm trying to get a special guest on for episode 10. And like I said, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on the this Twitter takeover, because it is very interesting for sure. There's no doubt about that. And last but not least, if you guys want to be part of the ABCD Masterclass, hit the link down in the description below. If you're watching live right now, that link should be in chat to register for a whitelist spot. And that's all I've got for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching episode 9 of the Tuohey Talk Show. I'm excited for the big double-digit episode 10 that'll be coming next week. I will see you guys then. Until then, have a safe